Hey everyone! Yesterday in writing, we talked about how when you're writing a small moment narrative, you've got to put yourself in the author's shoes and think about how every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So yesterday you got started on a new small moment narrative, writing the beginning. So making sure that your reader knows who is involved, where you are, and what's going on, giving all of that important information to kind of set up the story. And with setting up the story, you're not really giving any of the events yet. You're not really talking about what's going on or what happened yet. That's when you start talking about the middle. So yesterday I wrote the beginning of my story. So I'm going to reread that and then we're going to talk about what kind of components and what kind of parts go into the middle of a story and how I can make this story strong. So my beginning says, the sun was beaming on my yellow bike as I heard my brother and his friends yell at me to catch up. We were riding bikes down the biggest hill in the neighborhood. The boys had been teasing me all day that I wasn't as good of a bike rider. I was going to prove them wrong today. Oh, and as I reread, I noticed that I have a little typo. I'm going to fix that spelling so that when I go back later to revise, it's a little bit easier and I've already got it fixed. Okay, so now that I've kind of set up my story, now I really need to think back to that experience and I need to think, what are the events that happened? What happened in that story? What was the first thing? Then what was the next thing? So as a writer, I'm going to rehearse that in my mind first before I start writing. A really good thing to do when you're practicing is to recite it and practice it and say out loud what you're thinking so that you know it makes sense before you start writing. Because a lot of the time when we start writing, we lose our train of thought and then we reread our story and I'm like, what? That didn't make any sense. So I need to rehearse it. So after I decided that I was going to prove them wrong today, the very first thing that happened was that we all rode up to the very top of that hill. So there were, I think there were four of us. Yeah. So it was me, my brother, and the two boys. So we all four of us rode to the very top of the hill. So that was the first thing that happened. Okay. The next thing that happened was my brother went first. Okay. My brother was he was daring. So he went first. And then after my brother went, he went like super duper fast and he jumped over a ramp at the bottom. And so then the next thing that happened was that the boys started to say, "You're not going to do it, Stacy. You're not going to do it. You're too scared." And so it made me feel like really upset and it made me want to prove them wrong even more. So that's the next thing that happened. And then after that, I said, I'm going next. So I went second. I went right after my brother and I pedaled as hard as I could down that hill. I was going so fast. And then the next thing that happened was when I hit that ramp. Okay. Now I'm going to stop there because, like we've talked about before, when we think about the structure of a narrative, we've got the beginning, the middle, the twist. So that big moment, that exciting moment, which is the moment that I got hurt, and then the end or the conclusion, how everything came together. So before I get to that big moment, I just need to focus on those events. So now that I've rehearsed them, now I'm going to start typing them out with lots and lots of detail. So I was going to prove them wrong today. So what was the first thing that happened? We all rode our bikes up to the very top of the hill. So I was going to prove them wrong today. All four of us rode our bikes up to the top of the biggest hill in the neighborhood. Okay, that was the first thing that happened. And remember, I need to make it play out like a movie. I need to give enough detail to where my reader can picture that. So, the biggest hill in the neighborhood. We all turned our bikes around and looked at the hill ahead. It looked like a straight drop. Okay, I'm going to include how steep it looked. I really want my reader to understand that that hill was huge and it was terrifying to look at. It looked like a literally like cliff. So it was really intimidating. So I want to make sure my reader knows that. Okay, so let me reread what I just wrote. All four of us rode our bikes up to the top of the biggest hill in the neighborhood. We all turned our bikes around and looked at the hill ahead. It looked like a straight drop. Oh, here we go, another typo. Looked like a straight drop. Okay. First, my brother, the courageous one, leapt onto his pedals and pushed himself down the hill. I'm going to describe how fast he went. It looked like he was riding 100 miles per hour. Now, was he actually riding that quickly? No. But I need my reader to understand how crazy fast he was going. So I'm going to give that detail. So he looked like he was riding 100 miles per hour as soon as he was gone. Now remember, after my brother left, those two boys started teasing me. So I need to include that because I want my reader to know how I felt and why I was so ready to just go down the hill and prove them wrong. So I've got to tell my reader, otherwise they won't know and they won't understand. So as soon as he was gone, the other boys turned to me and started pointing. And I'm going to add some dialogue, make it really detailed. You will never do it, Stacy. You're a chicken. Man, did that hurt my feelings. So I want to tell my reader, you will never do it, Stacy. You're a chicken. But when they said that, it made my face turn bright red because I was upset. But I wasn't going to let it stop me. Okay, so now I've told my readers I was really upset by that. So now they know why I'm getting some motivation here. Now they know, oh, Stacy must have been really ready to go. So the next thing that happened was I pushed myself down the hill. So that I wasn't going to let it stop me. I jumped on my pedals and flew down the hill. I had to be going faster than my brother. It was not long before my bike, before the front wheel of my bike hit the ramp. Okay. All right, let me reread just to make sure I've got every event that happened leading up to that big twist. Okay. I'm going to read from the beginning, make sure it all makes sense. That's a good habit to have. The sun was beaming on my yellow bike as I heard my brother and his friends yell at me to catch up. We were riding bikes down the biggest hill in the neighborhood. The boys had been teasing me all day that I wasn't as good of a bike rider. I was going to prove them wrong today. All four of us rode our bikes up to the top of the biggest hill in the neighborhood. We all turned our bikes around and looked at the hill ahead. It looked like a straight drop. First, my brother, the courageous one, leapt onto his pedals and pushed himself down the hill. It looked like he was riding 100 miles per hour. As soon as he was gone, the other boys turned to me and started pointing. You'll never do it, Stacy. You're a chicken. But when they said that, it made my face turn bright red because I was upset. But I wasn't going to let it stop me. I jumped on my pedals and flew down the hill. I had to be going faster than my brother. It was not long before the front wheel of my bike hit the ramp. Stopping there makes me really want to continue, but I want to stop because I really wanted to just focus on those events. So today, as you continue writing your narrative, I want you to be rehearsing, thinking about what happened first, and then rehearsing it, saying out loud each event on your finger. First this happened, then this, then this, then this, and stop right before that big twist. And type that out with lots of detail.